So, good morning. I really feel honored to be with you. Does anybody else feel honored to be here? This was not, This was not, an event that anybody could come to. First of all, it was kind of pricey. Second of all, they were turning people away. We were turning people away. I was just talking to a friend who said, I don't know how I missed this. He goes, I would have been there in a second, and I missed this. And he goes, man, I'm so bummed. And I was just thinking how amazing it is to be a part of this charter group of platform builders. This is a really special thing that I'm honored to be a part of with you. And I'm among you. I feel honored to be here to see all of these amazing people come up on this platform. I mean, all of these people that we're listening to and watching are heroes of mine, except for one little redheaded guy who I swear I saw in one of those Harry Potter movies. But other than that, there's a lot of wisdom up here. And if you didn't get the Harry Potter reference, it's okay. You also have a life. So, I have a question. Who came here looking for a solution? Who came here saying, I need that it? I don't know what it is, but something's not working and I need the solution. I don't know if it's a piece of technology. I don't know if it's a strategy or something, but I need the nuts and bolts, the ninja karate chop that's going to get me to break through. Raise your hand if you came for something like that. Who came for the food? I didn't know that I came for the food, but I came for the food. Well, I have some really terrible, awful, really bad news for you. You are going to come here, you're here, and you're going to get all of these, great content, great speeches delivered for you, and you may not get all your questions answered. You may not get that it, which is frustrating. Hope you don't ask for a refund. Either way, no skin off my back. That wasn't part of the speaker agreement, so I'm good. Here's the good news. I discovered this really great piece of technology that will answer those questions for you. And you can go home after this if you want. Again, no skin off my back. Just stay for the rest of this. So if everybody could pull out their devices, their notepads, your portable brains, and write this down. This is amazing. I'm not kidding. This is not hyperbole. This is legit. I spend a lot of time on the interwebs looking at all kinds of amazing things, and this is the best. Are you ready? I'm going to spell it out for you slowly because it's complicated. Everybody's ready? Good. Good. Write the letter G. This isn't going where you think it's going. Write the letter O. Another letter O. And then a G. This is amazing. I'm not kidding. This is fantastic. Did I say G? Yeah. L. E. .com. Put it all together, and what do we get? .com. Man, I don't know how many times I get a question from somebody reading my blog or taking my online course or whatever, and they ask me the question, and I don't know the answer. But it takes me 6 seconds to go to Google it, and then go, here's the answer. Did you Google this? No, I didn't know I could Google that. Okay, so we're done after this, okay? I just want you to know we're done after this. You can Google anything. Anything. I have a rule with my online students. I have an online course for writers, and I have this rule that you can ask me anything you want. I will share any secret, any trick, anything that I've done to build a platform pretty quickly in about a year and a half. I will share anything. I don't have any secrets. You can ask me whatever you want, but you cannot ask me it until you've first Googled it. And as a result, I do not get a lot of questions. I don't believe you came here to hear things that you can Google. I just don't believe that. But there are things that you're going to learn here that you are learning that you cannot Google. So I'm just kind of setting up this little, warranty for me so that you don't feel bad at the end of the talk when you go, he didn't give me anything practical. I'm going to give you stuff practical. I'm going to give you practical tips. But these are concepts. principles. These things are way more important than what I did or what Michael Hyatt did or what Stu McLaren did to build our platforms. Because the reality is, the truth, and you've already sensed this, is you can't just go copy somebody. You have to find your own way. Now, does that mean you can't look at what somebody else has done and glean from their story something that applies to yours? Yeah, totally. And so that's what I want to share with you this morning about how I, in a short amount of time, applied these platform building concepts and built something much more humongous than I ever imagined in a much shorter time than I ever planned for. Before I do that, I wanted to share this pretty awesome message that my sister, Nikki, posted on Facebook yesterday. They say you're supposed to plug your book from stage, and so this is my subtle way of plugging my book. Walking into the doctor's office today, in the parking lot, I walked by a lady holding my big brother's book, Wrecked. I should like hold it up here. I didn't prepare. As I quickly approached her and asked if she liked the book, she looked at me like I was certifiably insane. I do slightly resemble a homeless person today, but hey, I'm sick. She's at the doctor's office, remember? She responded yes, and then I told her I knew the author. She gave me a half smile, began to walk off, and said, "I'm sure you do, sweetie." This is my life. I was like, awesome. And it started this big chain of comments where, like, you know, my sister felt honored to know me, and my dad was like, "I know him too," and it was just ridiculous. But the funny thing is, for a long time, this was the type of platform I was trying to build. I was trying to be known, to be a celebrity. And so the thing that I think anybody who knows my story knows, after I stopped acting in those Harry Potter movies, I built a blog seemingly very quickly and seemingly had a lot of success overnight. And I say that because I was surprised by that. But what they don't know is that I tried to do this before and really failed. And the reason that I did it, that I failed, was because I was trying to build this kind of platform. And this kind of platform is fun, and it's fun to talk about and, you know, tease around with your family, but it's really about you. And I don't know if you've picked up on this theme that has started to run through all of these presentations, but those who have succeeded at building powerful platforms have not built something for themselves. They've built something for other people. Now, there are lots of different ways to do that and lots of variations on that, but this is an underlying theme. Everybody that takes this stage today and tomorrow has built a platform, not for themselves, but for other people. So be looking for that, because for 4 years, I tried to blog and connect on social media. I was a marketing director of a nonprofit. We had, you know, a mailing list of over 100,000 people. I knew this stuff, and I could not apply it to my personal brand. Because I wanted to publish a book someday, maybe, and I couldn't figure it out. And I somehow did not bridge the gap between this thing that I'm doing over here is about other people, and this thing I'm doing over here is about me. And one is succeeding and one is not. And so 4 years, I beat my head against a wall and failed, and I did not get it. I just got back from a trip to Guatemala. And talk about the resistance. Just had this amazing experience. Had a great time here yesterday, and then at like 9 o'clock last night, just started to feel really sick. Barely slept last night, woke up and just feeling blah. And that, to me, is a good sign that something important is happening here. And that's how I felt before I went on this trip to Guatemala. I was sort of like, you know, I don't know if this is going to be a big deal or anything, but I'm going to go. And the whole purpose of this trip was I wrote a book that was about how we find our purpose by helping other people. And so we invited this group of 20 people who had read my book to join me on this short vision trip to Guatemala, where we would visit these NGOs that the nonprofit that I work for, that we work with, and just try to catch a vision of the work that we were doing in that country and hopefully walk away changed in some way. And it was like 3 days on the ground. I had very low expectations. I've led lots of trips like this in the past, but usually they're a week or two long. And I just didn't see the kind of impact that we could have with really 3 days on the ground. And so I went in with these low expectations, was sort of feeling indifferent about it, started to get really scared and nervous and anxious. And every time this happens, I kind of forget that this is what happens every time something great happens. This is how I felt before I was coming up here, so get ready. It's going to be awesome. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be awesome. And this trip was amazing. I've never experienced anything like it. If you want to hear more about it, I'd be happy to share with you. But people just came ready to serve. They came ready to just be selfless. We were doing not fun stuff. So one day we toured the Guatemala city dump, where over 11,000 people, they live near and they work in the city dump every day. We met this young man who was 20 years old, and since he was 6, he'd been taking care of his brothers and sisters by running the family business, which happens to be going into the dump every day and scavenging for metal scraps to sell and then hopefully be able to provide for his family. On a good day, he makes about $10. On a bad day, he makes much less than that. This trip rocked me. And about halfway through, I just saw these people that were rising to the occasion, stepping out of their comfort zones, doing amazing stuff. By the way, this was not like tourism. They were sleeping in hostels with 4 people to a room, taking cold showers every day, and none of these people knew each other. I had never met many of them, and they didn't really know our organization. They'd never been on a trip with us before. It was weird. And halfway through the trip, I thought to myself, we didn't really do a good job of telling them what to expect. We didn't really say we were going to go do this, and day 2 and 3 is going to look like that. We didn't do any of that because we didn't really know. All we did was post a blog post on my blog and invite people to go and say, if you've read this book, trust me, and come and go on this trip. And so halfway through the trip, I had to stop myself and go, why are these weird people here? Why did they leave their families and jobs for a week to come down and take cold showers and walk through dumps and hospitals and slums? Why? And the reason that they came is platform. I don't want to overemphasize that or work that into this conference. That's really why they came. I went around and asked people, I go, how'd you end up here? And weird stories where somebody read a blog post and then somebody tweeted it and somebody, shared it. It wasn't just that everybody read my blog and everybody decided to go on this trip. In fact, about half of the people that went on this trip were like friends of people that read my blog. But through that network, they all found their way to this trip that legitimately changed each person that was there. I went through and talked with everybody that was on that trip, and everybody had a moment where something about their life changed from that trip. I share this with you because that's what a platform is about. It's about standing up here, not so that you can look at me, not so that you can even hear my voice, but so that I can hopefully deliver a message that impacts you. That's the kind of platform that I'm interested in building and being a part of. Not one where I stand up here and I go, hey, look at me. I've got a microphone. You should listen. And we know that that doesn't work. But for years, I did a really bad job at that. I thought it was about me, and it wasn't about me. And when that changed, everything changed. So there are basically 3 steps that I took in building this platform, and I don't know if these are the steps that you need to take. I do know that there are some truths in here that I want to share with you, some lessons that I learned, but it's probably not going to be exactly the way it works for you. My story is not your story, but there's hopefully something in the lessons that I learned that you can glean. In fact, I believe that. And if nothing else, you got the whole Google thing, which save you a lot of time. So the first step for me was finding my voice, which is this thing that writers say that I think we believe actually happens in a cabin in the woods somewhere with a dog and some prayer beads and a candle, and it just like poof, I found it. I got it. I got the muse. You just get visited by this ghost, and then all of a sudden you're set and you're brilliant. And it actually feels a little bit more like crawling over broken glass for 10 miles. So for years I wrote. I've written my whole life. I have been published in national magazines and on popular websites. And I was a marketing director. I was hired by a nonprofit as a staff writer. And yet when people would ask me, what do you do? I would usually, say whatever my job title was. And then if they found out that I wrote, they would go, oh, you're a writer. And I would go, no. You write, right? Right. There's a lot of rights. Well, then you're a writer, right? No. No, I'm just somebody who writes. I'm not a writer. Like, those are people who publish books and live in the mountains and, who knows what else. But I'm not that. Like, I have a day job. This is just something that I do for fun. And even when I was blogging and really stinking at it, Mike showed his little graph and it was like, this. And interestingly, mine was sort of like that up until year 4. And then I just kind of lost it. I just gave up. And I just stopped. And it went like this. And the reason was I hadn't found my voice. Whenever I would write, it would sometimes be great, and other times it would be really bad, and there was no consistency. I mean, I don't know if you ever struggle with this to share your craft, to communicate your message, but sometimes it's just hard. And you write something, you deliver a talk, you do something, and you go, I could do way better like that. I did not hit it. I did not make it. And for me, it was just this lack of practice, and I was just all over the place, and I was unsure of myself, and it all came down to this issue of identity. And so I had a conversation with a friend, and he said, what's your dream? And I don't know what social circles you run around in, but like 3 years ago, I feel like everybody started talking about what their dream was, and they started like getting on a trajectory to quit their jobs and go pursue their dream and do whatever. And I hated that. I was so tired of hearing my 25-year-old friends talking about their dreams and just, 6 months later, totally flaking out. Partly because I had stuck with a job for so long while I'd seen a lot of my peers move on to other things, and partly because I was bitter because I wasn't getting to live my dream. And so I told him, oh, that's kid stuff. I'm not interested in that. And he'd been through a lot of therapy, so he kind of pressed in and he goes, oh, that's weird. He said this real therapeutic-like. Strange, because I would say, this is just my opinion, that your dream is to be a writer. And as soon as he said that, something hit me in my soul. I could feel this resonance. I knew it was true. And I said, yeah, I guess you're right. I suppose. Maybe. I'd like to someday be a writer. Or whatever. And he said, Jeff, you don't have to want to be a writer. You are a writer. You just need to write. And I said, oh, that easy, huh? And I don't know what happened in that conversation, but something in me unlocked. And the next day I got up and wrote. And I read in a book somewhere that writers get up at 5 a.m. and that's when they write. And so that sounded pretty good to me. It didn't sound good, but it sounded, better than not writing. And so I traded a block of time where I wasn't doing anything, where I wasn't really producing anything, 10 p.m. to 12 a.m., where I was just, I looked at that block of time every night, and I was producing nothing. I was somehow eating that time up on Facebook and TV and falling asleep on the couch. And so I killed that block of time, and I exchanged it for 5 to 7 a.m. every morning, and I just got up and wrote. I just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote, and I did this for about a year, every day. And about 8 months into it, I was also starting to get into running. And it used to be really hard for me to get up and run, and it used to be really hard for me to write. I would have to, in order for me to write, it would have to be a Saturday afternoon, and I'd have to drink like 8 cups of coffee, French press, the good stuff. I mean, the cultured, like I'm feeling European. And it would have to be summer, and I'd have to sit outside, and the wind would have to blow just right, and then I would go, okay, I'm ready, and I would write 3 words. And I'd close my notebook, and I'd feel really artistic, and I'd go, notebook, in another 3 weeks, we're going to have another little conversation. And so to do it with such discipline was a new thing for me. And running was this way too. And one day, I got up, I put on my shoes, as if I were sleepwalking, right? Not really thinking about it. I put on my shoes, I went out the door, I ran 5 miles, I got back home, ate breakfast, wrote 1,500 words, took a shower, and then all of a sudden I was like, what? Who are you? I'm lazy. But I had just been doing it so long and so habitually that it literally became effortless. It wasn't, not that it wasn't hard, but it didn't require effort to start because it was just this habit. Now, I'm not saying that it isn't hard sometimes to start. It is. It's very hard. It's the hardest part. But it became a lot easier to begin by practicing these disciplines. And as I did this, I began to find my voice. And I didn't know it. I had to have friends tell me, you used to write like all over the place. It was very hard to follow. And now it's very consistent. I know what you're about. I can come to expect how you're going to communicate something. You found your voice. And I go, wow, I guess I have. But even as I was writing, and around this time I started a blog, even as I was writing, I wasn't sure of myself. I still wasn't calling myself a writer. I was writing, but I wasn't calling myself a writer. And I thought there was somebody else had to tell me that I was a writer. And so I had a great opportunity to interview a guy by the name of Stephen Pressfield, who Michael mentioned earlier, who wrote a great book called The War of Art. And I interviewed him for my blog, which is something that I started doing at the beginning, which I highly recommend. If you have a blog and you're trying to connect with your audience, a great way to legitimize your platform is to interview experts in your field. And so that's what I did. I emailed Steve, and I didn't really have much of a platform at the time, and he said yes. And that's another secret. Just ask. Just like Googling. The answer's out there, and 9 out of 10 times in my experience, people will say yes or not now. And if they say not now, you go when. And then they tell you, and then you put it on your calendar and you ask again later. True story. And so I asked Steve, when does a writer become a writer? Is it when he publishes a book? Is it when she writes a New York Times bestselling novel? Is it when you win the Pulitzer Prize? And he said these words that I'll never forget. You are when you say you are. I said, that sounds really nice, but I want an answer. Sounds very zen. Tell me when I can call myself a writer for real. I know you put this in your books, but I want to know when. Do I need somebody's permission? What do I have to do? And he said, screw what everybody else says. You are when you say you are. Hope I can say screw up here, because I just did it twice. I'm sure they have a bleep thing on there or something. So crazy thing, I just started calling myself a writer. And I had to force myself to do this. I put it on my business cards. I put it in my email signature. I started a blog called goinswriter.com. This was sort of an accident. I couldn't get jeffgoins.com because some realtor had it, and I still can't get it. So maybe if we all just email him together, we can do it. But I think it was providence because, I wanted to have my name in there, and I wanted to include the fact that I was a writer, and so I got the domain goinswriter.com. Because, if you're going to start a blog, if you're going to build a website, I think one of the smartest things to do, if you're not sure that you're always going to do the thing that you're doing, or you're writing about a certain topic now, but that might change, is to build it around your name, around your personal brand, because that can scale. You can be a fireman, a plumber, an Apple technician, whatever, and it still works. But I was certain that I would always be a writer. And so I was comfortable with having that in my domain name. And so I started calling myself a writer. And crazy, crazy thing, when you call yourself this thing, people go, so, what do you write? And so there's this expectation, right? You kind of got to start acting like it. Otherwise, it's not going to last very long. And so this really raised the stakes for me. And so, as I said, I started a blog, I started writing, I started calling myself a writer. And then I started doing something that I'd never done before. I started trying. Like really putting out content on my blog. See, blogging for me was this thing where I would just, write a quick thought in about 20 minutes and I'd throw it out there. It was a brain dump. And that just didn't work for me. And so instead of doing that, I sat down, because I had 2 hours every morning now blocked out where I was consistently writing, and I tried to write the best article that I could write that day. Not the best article that I could ever write. I mean, I go back and read some of those posts from 2 years ago, and I go, I need to change that. That's not as good as it would be now. And that's always true. I once heard an author say that he published over 20 books. He wanted to go and rewrite all of them, pull them off the shelves and make them better. And the only thing that was keeping him from doing that was he said, these are my journals. These are snapshots, these are snippets of where I was, what I was thinking, what I believed, how good of a writer I was at that moment. So I start, no more throwaway content. I'm going to put the best stuff out there. And I started believing that I was a writer. And it was scary at first, and I was sort of faking it for a while. But I think this is the most courageous thing we can do. In fact, I'm so confident of it because every time I speak, I tell this story just about, and it is the number one thing that I hear is holding back writers, potential authors, creatives, artists, people who want to build platforms, is this refusal to believe this thing that you hope to be. So maybe the most significant, courageous thing we can do right now, and this is not like the Google thing, this is a legit exercise. I want you to pull out, whatever note-taking devices you're using and write down. And even if you've done this before, even if you're not struggling with this, do it anyway, please. Write down, I am a blank. Draw a little line, a little blank. Now fill in the blank. But don't just fill it in with whatever you tell people at a cocktail party or the safe thing. Write down the thing that is your core identity, this thing that you long to be, that you're actually afraid to speak. I am an entrepreneur. I am a mover and a shaker, a writer, a catalyst, a change maker. I believe that we are all afraid to admit that. Because it's the resistance. It's something that's holding us back from becoming fully ourselves. And for me, it was writer. So I began by calling myself a writer and then acting like it. And then finally, as I did it long enough, I began to believe it. So that's what that looks like practically. Say it. Whatever you are, say it. And that little thing that you wrote down, write it down every single day. Or put it, tape it to your bathroom mirror. Remind yourself of this thing. It never hurts to remind ourselves of who we are because we can get lost. I was starting to get lost in the whole platform thing until I went on that trip to Guatemala and I realized, oh, this isn't really about me. I would trade all the stages, and all the blog readers for more moments like this with these 20 people. Practice it. You can't just say it. This isn't just like this name it and claim it, I'm going to manifest it into existence. If you wrote astronaut down, you better get your butt to NASA. But I think activity follows belief, identity. I don't think it's the other way around because I was writing for years and I still refused to believe that I was this thing. And you know, if you're really struggling with that and you wrote something down, you know that there's somebody in your life that's already affirmed that and you refuse to believe it. And then you get to believe it. Now, I wish I could put that at the beginning, but I think the reality is we start by sort of forcing ourselves to do something that's uncomfortable, but we know is right. And as we get some momentum, we go, oh, like I'm not faking it anymore. And maybe I never was. Maybe I was just practicing who I was becoming. Second step was pursuing passion, not results. Who's addicted to their Google Analytics? Raise your hand. Some of the most successful bloggers and platform builders that I know who have millions of readers do not have a relationship with their analytics account. They don't know. What's your traffic like? Last time I checked was a month and a half ago and it was this. Why? I think once you get to a certain point, numbers begin to be arbitrary. Now that said, numbers do matter, and you want to have benchmarks. You want to know that you're gaining momentum. Some of us are more competitive than others. I'm kind of competitive. But one day, that all changed for me because my blog was doing this little thing, and it was growing steadily, and I started my blog, and I started with 5 readers, went up to 50, just kind of slowly grew. And I knew that it would take me a long time to get back to the minimal amount of traffic that I had with that blog that I had built for 4 years. And so I was just like, I'm just trying to put the work in. And maybe in 2 or 3 years I'll have something to be proud of. I wasn't on any sort of fast track. And then 11 months into it, something crazy happened where I wrote this off-topic article. So I read a lot of articles about writing and encouraging other writers. A lot of this comes out of this experience. And I wrote an article about traveling the world because I'd just gotten back from a trip. And it went viral. It went just crazy viral. And what had happened was, I think, some student group in Singapore had shared it on Facebook. And I went and looked at the original page, and he was like this leader of a student travel group in Singapore. And he shared it on Facebook, and he had 200 friends. And then those 200 friends shared it with their 200 friends. And it was like this legitimate, total viral sensation. And so in one day, I got over 50,000 unique visitors to my blog. And the next day, I got another 50. And so in a weekend, I got 100,000 visitors to my blog, which is that's how much I get in a month now. And I had this weird feeling on Sunday. So this happened, Saturday and then Sunday. And on Sunday night, I thought, what do I do on Monday? Do I write an ebook about travel and try to sell it? That was tempting. Do I just, I don't know what to do. I am paralyzed. How can I beat this? And lo and behold, on Monday, traffic went down. So it was going like this and went like this, and then it started to go back down to, the normal growth curve. There was no place to go but down. I still haven't been able to go back to that, and maybe someday. But it can't be about the numbers, is what I realized. It has to be about the work. You have to love the work. And so when I started over, and I started blogging, and I started engaging my tribe, which really wasn't anybody at the time, I decided to not chase trends. I don't know if you know this. You can go to google.com/trends. You can find out what's trending. You can do this with Twitter. You can find out what's hot, and you can write an article, and maybe it'll rank highly, and you'll get a lot of traffic. But then what? It's like throwing a birthday party every day. Eventually, we get tired of cake, and we just want to hang out. You want to build the type of community where people are just hanging out with each other. There doesn't have to be some big event. And so I started pursuing passion instead of results. And something changed in me, and basically the thing that changed was I was going to write the content that if nobody showed up today or tomorrow, or the next day, I'm going to write what I need to write for me. Because this is a calling that I have to honor. And here's the crazy thing. When you stop chasing results, people start showing up. Because everybody in the world gets inspired by somebody who's pursuing their passion. And people can easily detect when you're just trying to get them to do something, when you're trying to rank highly in something or trick them into reading your blog or subscribing or whatever. But when they see passion, they see somebody who's come alive, it inspires them. And the sad reality is most people aren't living in that place. So if we choose to live inspired lives by pursuing our passions, you're going to build a tribe because people love that. They want that. They need that. We're afraid to fail. This is why we chase results. Because we think that failure is not an option. Remember that Apollo 13 quote? I think that's so silly because how many things failed on the Apollo 13? You know, this thing broke and this person almost died and they had no oxygen and they crashed in the ocean, and if they stayed in there 13 more seconds, they would have all died. They failed. The whole mission failed. But they didn't die. And this is the lie of failure, is that if I fail enough times, I'll die. This whole thing will end tomorrow. Failure is not an option. It's an opportunity. When you fail, you don't really fail. You just find another way to not do something. You learn. You grow. So how do we pursue our passion? It's ironic, right, that I'm telling you your platform is not about yourself, and then the first step in pursuing your passion is to start selfish. We do start selfish. We have to start with ourselves because we don't have a tribe yet, or it's not where it needs to be. We have to begin with us. But it doesn't end there. You start with yourself because that's all you have. That's the only resource that you have. But then from there, you go, what am I struggling with that I can share in a way that's going to help other people? So you start with yourself, but the goal is not you. It's them. You're just using whatever inventory you have. Ignore metrics. And I would add to this, do it sparingly. It's okay to measure things on occasion, but like Seth Godin says about Amazon book reviews, we look at our metrics to beat ourselves up and to hide a lot of the times. This is why we read book reviews. Because I don't know what you do, but what I'm looking for when I read a book review or looking at numbers, if it doesn't go up, I'm just like, if it goes up, I go, okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's okay. And if it goes down, I go, oh, I knew it. I knew this wasn't going to last. I better go start working at Taco Bell. This is going to fail. You use it as an excuse to beat yourself up because you're afraid to risk. And so metrics are important as milestones, but they don't really help you. Not when you're ramping up, not when you're beginning. It needs to be passion. This is what attracts people. Lastly, focus on one thing. So what I really care about with my blog to this day is not the traffic. It's not the amount of people that are coming to my blog and reading it every day, it's more people that I can possibly imagine. I'm speaking to 200 people here, and this is amazing. I can't imagine actually speaking to the 6,000, 7,000, 10,000 people that sometimes visit my blog every day. And so what I do is I want to focus on engagement. You know, all that matters to me, all I need to feel good about my blog is that somebody emails me once a week and says, hey, you said this, and it really spoke to me. If I get 52 of those, we've got that many people in this room. If you guys just partner up and just plan out in a schedule, just let's email. I'm set. I'm set. That's all I need. So find out what your one thing is. Focus on that and go, this is what matters to me. If it's not traffic, maybe it's email subscribers. That was something that I've focused on a lot because that's how I get the engagement. That's how I get the permission. That's how I build the trust to get that response. The last step, and I'm going to go through this quickly. It's an important step, and it is the one thing that I neglected the most. I kind of understood what it meant to pursue your passion. I understood that I needed to be a writer. I wasn't doing those things great, but I kind of got it. I was terrible at this thing. Now, I'm just going to be transparent. I started my blog out of envy, out of frustration at seeing a bunch of hack writers write on the internet, bad content, and I thought, I could do better. I am doing better. Why are they so popular? Does anybody else feel this way? It stinks. It seems that content is not king. Content is this starving little pauper outside the city gates who's saying, can I have some more? The best marketers, from my perspective, are the ones who build the biggest audiences. That's what I thought. I don't believe that anymore, but I did believe that for a long time, and I thought, I need to beat these people at their own game because I feel like I have good content and they're just schmoozing. And I'm not doing that, and they're getting a lot of attention, and I'm not getting any. So I just started connecting with people. And this is what I think a tribe really is it's not getting people to your blog. I learned, just because I live in Nashville and it's a fairly connected city, it's a small town, so it's easy to ask people to coffee, meet with them. What I realize is the people that are retweeting each other and reading each other's blogs and linking to one another, they're all friends with each other offline. Because I was emailing people, I was making all these online connections, and they weren't worth much. And when I started asking people to coffee, I'd noticed that, oh, that person just tweeted my article. That's cool. Offline relationship leads to online engagement. It just does. Everybody who's built something powerful in this room will tell you. The most significant conversations that you're going to have here, the best interactions that you're going to have are, in about 2 minutes when we break and you're just connecting with people. This is where tribes are built. This is where influence is earned. You've heard that whole adage that it's not who you know, it's who knows you. That's not true. Because you know a lot of people now. And a lot of people kind of know you. Because everybody in the world is connected to each other. So what really matters? I think it's how they know you. If you meet Michael Hyatt at a conference and you shake his hand, you know him and technically he knows you. And if the relationship ends there, there's not a lot of influence there. He's influencing you, but maybe you're not influencing him that much. So how do you do that? Well, the person who is able to meet with him and interact with him and have coffee with him 5 times in a row, how they know him is much more significant than how you know him. So for me, when I was building relationships, I was going deep with a few people instead of going, shallow with a lot of people. And I learned very quickly by connecting with 4 or 5 people that all of a sudden I had access to these very large tribes. And the way I did it was very simple. I didn't ask for anything but their time. I didn't try to coerce them into doing anything. I just tried to help them. And sometimes I didn't have much to offer, except maybe I'll buy your coffee, or I'll interview you, or I'll just soak in your grandeur. That's what I did with Mike. I said, I want to get a suntan from your glory.
Obviously it didn't work.
I know, yeah. I was in Guatemala for a week. This is a suntan. This is how we albinos roll. There are 3 types of relationships you need to be pursuing to build this community that really builds your tribe. Friends. These are peers. Look around. I'm serious. Look around. Everybody in this room should be a friend of yours. These are people that are in the trenches with you, whom you can encourage and can encourage you. You need those types of people. I have conversations on a weekly basis with people who are technically like competitors. Like we have online businesses, we're trying to reach the same constituents, the same customers, and all we're doing is sharing our secrets because the pie is much bigger than either of us realize. And we know that if I help you and you help me, both of our influence and tribes and businesses grow. Fans is the second type of group. You're going to build a tribe. Some of you have significant tribes already. And these people are fans. These people love you for your work. Reward them. Be generous to them. I met a guy at a conference who said, does anybody ever tell you that you give away too much stuff? I said, thank you. I hope that is always true. I always want to be known as somebody who gives more than he takes. I always want to ask permission more than I demand attention. Help these people. Serve them. You are their chief servant, not their king. Lastly, and I think this is very important, very overlooked, it's what I call a patron. Remember during the Renaissance when you had Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo and those types of people, they had to have rich people give them money to create their art. And I think everybody in this room is an artist. You have work that you want to create that you're going to share with the world, and it's going to make it a better place. Yeah, and I even you entrepreneurs and you business people, what you do is an art. And you need patrons. We all need patrons. We need people who believe in the work, who are going to help us do what we do better, help support the work. But now, more valuable than money is influence. And so the way that we find patrons is we earn them. And the best way to earn them that I found is to show them that you are a person of integrity and that you are a generous person and that you are worth investing in. Don't try to wow them with your brilliance. Don't try to shock them with your awesomeness because they know more than you do. Because if you're seeking out their advice, they've done what you've done much better. And so just let them know you and give them an opportunity to invest in you. And I've found that lots of people are ready to do that, and very few people are ready to give handouts to people who kind of coerce them or manipulate them into helping. So some of us feel like this. We feel overwhelmed. We don't know what to do. And I love what Danielle Laporte says, and I would love for us to do this as an act of obedience. Who feels like they have something where they're saying, I just don't know how. I don't know how. Raise your hand if you feel like there's something you don't know how to do. Okay. All right, write this down. I love how engaged you are. Write down, I don't know how. And then fill in the, like write a little blank. Okay, some of you have to write faster. Fill in that blank. Now cross that out. And now write, I'll figure it out. You will. You'll figure it out. You're smart. Your brain's got you here. You're going to figure it out. It's going to be okay. And for those of you who struggled like I did for a long time, because you're looking at the other guy, you're looking at their numbers, you're jealous, you're envious, this little adage has helped me get through lots of painful moments that I still experience where I go, oh, look at that person. I want to, like, they're doing way better than I am. I try not to worry about that anymore because some people get lucky. Some people are really gifted and just are kind of lazy and resting in their gifts. And so I just tell myself, you can outlast those who are lucky and you can outwork those who are lazy. It's true. But in all of that, I hope you don't forget that this isn't about you. It's about them. I have a friend who's a writing coach. She's been teaching a memoir class for over 15 years. She teaches people how to write about themselves. And she says, good memoir is about something. And that something is not me. The same is true with your platform. A good platform is about something, and that something is not you. So go build yours. Thank you.